TimeWaver is a quantum physical interface which is designed for communicating with the informational field. The informational field is the name which I like to use for the underlying level of reality, because physical reality consists of photons and bosons, and their interaction actually makes physical reality dynamic, and actually only by this interaction it's actually happening. We are using these two types of elementary particle processes within TimeWaver to contact the informational field. We are using electrons, which are fermions, and we are using photons, which are bosons. So we use the female particles and we're using the male particles. Therefore we have two types of oscillators or sensors within TimeWaver. One is called the positive diodes, which are using electron processes. We have two of them in TimeWaver, and we have a photonic resonator, which we call the light quantum resonator, which uses quantum events of photons, which are actually bosons. One of the most important discoveries which contributes to the fame of Wolfgang Pauli, and which ultimately he received the Nobel Prize in 1945 for, was the discovery that there are two different kinds of elementary particles, out of which matter consists. One category is called the bosons and the other category is called the fermions. The difference between these two categories is that the fermions, they are in a way substantial type of matter. They have a mass in a classical sense, whereas the bosons, they are particles which are exchanged between the fermions, and they result in the forces between these particles, like the gravitational force, these particles we call the gravitons, like the electromagnetic force, these particles we call the photons, or the weak and strong force between the nucleus, the particles of the nucleus, which we call the bosons of the weak and the strong interactions. So these particles, the bosons, they don't have a mass in a classical sense, but they have they represent the energy of the field which is between the solid particles. It's something like female particles, the fermions, which are substantial, they are material, they are like matter, and the male particles, which are like photons and gravitons and other bosons, which are turning around and moving around the female particles. So this is the interaction between the yin and the yang aspect of reality. This is the duality which forms our reality. So Pauli discovered that these two different categories of particles can be distinguished by the spin. For example, an electron has a spin of 1/2, and a boson, like a proton, has a spin of 1, or multiples of 1. So only by combining these two types of completely different quantum processes, using bosons and fermions as well, we can get a complete picture of the underlying processes in the informational field. If we would use only electrons, or if we would use only photons, we would actually get only half of the picture. To get the complete picture, it is very meaningful to use both type of elementary particles. So these three resonators which we use in the hardware of TimeWaver, consisting of two electronic and one photonic resonator, they form a triangle. And this triangle is also a very significant symbol, because the duality, which is the underlying principle of all physical processes, expresses itself in two different extreme positions in which physical system can be. For example, if you have a pendulum, it can be in a resting position where all the energy is in the gravitational field, or it can be in the position of maximum movement where all the energy is in the movement itself, it's kinetic energy. And then if the pendulum goes to the other side, the kinetic process is again slowed down, and it comes to a standstill, where there again the energy is in the gravitational potential. So this process between the two extreme positions within this duality, it's an energetic process. So the energetic process is a result of the duality of the two extremes, and it is a third process connecting the two extremes. So in a way, a synthesis which comes out of the duality. So if you come from the dual process to the energetic process, it's a movement from number 2 to number 3. Originally it comes from the oneness of reality, but the oneness of reality cannot even be perceived. And nothing is happening. It's just undifferentiated oneness. So the first step out of this oneness is the duality between the subject and the object, which is reflected in the physical world as a duality of physical states. And to interact, to have these physical states to interact with each other, it's a step from 2 to 3, and energetic processes come into the place. So, therefore this triangle of 3 different type of quantum resonators within TimeWaver represent this very important symbol of the energetic process. If you look at TimeWaver, you see 2 circles directly in front of you and a third circle on the other side, forming a triangle. And it's important, if you sit on this side and have a TimeWaver in front of you, you are completing the triangle by a fourth pole, a fourth position. So this is very important to establish the relationship between the conscious user, the conscious observer of TimeWaver, to work with TimeWaver, so that the energetic process, which is represented by the quantum events within the TimeWaver, is complemented by a consciousness. And this is the way from number 3 to number 4. Therefore, Carl Gustav Jung said, Sigmund Freud's psychology is 3-dimensional, but his psychology is 4-dimensional. Which means that if you just describe the energetic process of the psyche, it's not enough. You have to combine the subconscious with the conscious. You have to complement the 3 by a 4th. You have to combine the Trinity with the other pole, which is not conscious. Therefore, the Christian Trinity is complemented in the, for example, the Catholic theology by a female counterpart, which became more and more relevant in the religious experience of the Christian people as Mother Mary, because they couldn't even stand an image of God which only consists of males. So subconsciously the female aspect becomes more prominent, and even the Pope, 1952, had to admit Mary as the first female being, human being, to enter into heaven, which was proclaimed by the Pope, and I think it was 1952. Carl Gustav Jung considered that time to be extremely important for the wholeness or completing the human consciousness. So therefore, TimeWaver in itself cannot do anything, it's not complete. It needs the conscious observer, the conscious users with this intention to be complete. On the other hand, I believe that the TimeWaver himself is a very powerful way to complete the conscious observer, so that he can actually do something which he couldn't do just by himself. And this is what thousands of people who have already been using TimeWaver now for already 10 years, what they experience. They experience that they become more complete in the work. They can reach into levels which they cannot reach just by their own strength.